You're listening to the Anchored at Harbor Park podcast. This podcast is sponsored by You Are the Answer, pure sports nutrition products for the pure effort you put into your training.
These products are awesome. We carry them in our gym and our members love them. Super simple, pure, all-natural ingredients with delicious flavors. You can learn more about them by visiting their website at www.youaretheanswer.com, and remember to use promo code CFHP to get 20% off your first order.
Go ahead and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platforms so you never miss an episode. Remember to leave us a review. Doing so helps us reach more and in turn helps us impact more people's lives.
Now on with the show.
Welcome to Anchored at Harbor Park CrossFit, a show dedicated to helping you find enrichment for the other 23 hours of your day outside of the gym. Here's your hosts, Jason, Dave, and Corian.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 79 of the Anchored at Harbor Park podcast. I'm Coach Jason.
I'm Coach Dave.
Coach Corian.
And today we are going to talk about the progress curve. What it is, how you can find out where you are along it, what it means, all that fun stuff. But first, I have an icebreaker. The question is, if you had to choose one person to give you or your team a motivational speech, who would it be? Corin, you're up.
I listened to her on my way in today because I needed to pick me up. Jen Sincero, hands down.
Yeah.
I was not super pumped about coming in today. It's Monday. We woke up and our apartment, burping, was 55 degrees.
Yeah,
so
it's
just
freezing.
Cold. Yeah. And so I just needed some oomph. And this is how much I love her. I just Googled or YouTubed Jen Sincero and just picked the first video because literally everything she says is gold. And I don't care what it is. You're gonna get a takeaway from it, so I don't have to search forever for one that was gonna be in my mood today.
Right.
So yeah, I love her. She's on my must meet list for sure.
Mine would be David Goggins or Ben Bergeron, but David Goggins is pretty motivational.
Who is?
David Goggins is the military guy. See, he's all too much for me.
He's in your face. I like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I was well, people don't need to run until their feet are falling off. It's a little extreme. No, yeah. Ben Bergeron for me. Whenever I'm in that, I kind of put his podcast on. It gives me a kick in the butt.
Yeah, I've been listening to a couple of his lately. Again. But Jen Sincero, whenever I'm feeling just meh, like I said, anything she has is gold. Mm-hmm. So just pick one. The one I picked was a 10-minute video. It was a TED Talk of hers about that uncomfortable zone and just taking that leap of faith.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
It was a good one.
Cool.
I'm gonna post about it.
Let's talk about the progress curve. So what is the progress curve? Do either of you know? I came up with a spur of the moment this morning.
I feel as we define this and talk about it, we're probably going to be on the same page, but always, me and you just define words differently. Mm-hmm. So I don't know how much of a curve it is versus just a splattered line for me.
So, when I think about it, the progress curve is, and this is just general, not talking about health or fitness, just in general, whatever you're doing. It's kind of like a hockey stick. It starts off and you're putting a lot of work in with not much to show for it. So it's kind of if you think about a hockey stick, the bottom part that you actually hit the puck with, right? It's kind of just flat.
Blade?
Is that what it's called? I played hockey for 1 year, so I don't really.
Love it.
Yeah. Or if you think of a golf club, the head of the club at the bottom is just flat. Mm-hmm. So you're doing all this hard work, and you're not really going up much. You're just kind of chugging along with no progress. Then, all of a sudden, at some point, it dramatically shoots up, and then, the handle goes way vertically. and where a lot of people, like, think about this, like the people who are overnight celebrities. Like a lot of musicians or like comedians get this, where people are like, oh, they just came out of nowhere and shot to. Well, no, they were doing a lot of hard work with zero or little to show for it. Then they had an opportunity and then it shot them up.
I was listening to Rachel Hollis's podcast, and she talks about that because her book went so explosive. Girl, Wash Your Face. And, but she's like, people don't know. I wrote 4 books before that. Like, no one talks about that stuff.
So yeah, it's kind of this thing where you don't really know. You know if you're on either the straight path or the vertical path. The hard part is you don't know when it changes. And so we can see this a lot. I was going to talk about how it relates to CrossFit later on, but I'll kind of just touch on it now. We see this a lot with clients or people who are putting a lot of hard work and they don't yet see the progress, whether it's weight loss or, strength training, put a ton of work in, but not a lot of progress to show for it. And then all of a sudden, maybe something clicks and you finally learn the technique and you finally get it down, and then boom, you shoot up in that aspect.
Yeah, I think this is a great topic today. I mean, me and Rachel were just talking about it. Like you said, it doesn't matter if it's CrossFit, if it's your personal life, if it's your business life, anything like that. Everybody knows the things they need to do to win. Okay? Like, I know what needs to be done in business. But like you said, where is that breaking point? Like, that things are going to really just skyrocket and take off? I don't know. But I know if I don't do like X, Y, and Z, that'll never happen.
Right.
And so it's just like, you're kind of waiting for that cliff. And you're like taking that step forward and you're like, all right, is it there yet? Take that step forward. Is it there yet? And I think that is our human nature downfall, or maybe our societal downfall right now, is like, we want that right now. Mm-hmm. We're not willing to have that unknown of how many steps it's going to
be.
Right.
And there's a really popular meme on the internet. I think it was just kind of a cartoon, but turned into a meme of a guy. He's underground and like picking. He's like,
oh, I saw that one. Yeah.
Digging, in like a mine, and he literally stops. Like, one more pick, he would have broke through and find all the gold. Mm-hmm. But he stops. He gave up because he's like, oh, I'm not seeing any. Like, what's the point? And turn around, but then you can see, because you have a bird's eye view of, like, literally one more little strike, it would have paid off for him. So that's kind of like when you're moving along it and we don't know specifically like the flat part, and we don't see the progress. That's like where you really have to trust the process, trust in yourself. Like, talk to people that you trust in, like mentors. If you're in the gym, like your coaches, so then you can make sure that you're on the right path. Mm-hmm. And if you have questions about this, because we get it too, like if we're doing something with our diet and we're not seeing the results we want, like, do we follow that path or do we switch? Mm-hmm. So we totally understand it can be one of those things where you're not sure if you should continue, if it's a waste of time. But when it comes to this stuff, like health and wellness, typically it's a lot. You have to believe and you have to have faith that progress is gonna be there.
Yeah, I like to tell people that one of the things you got to hold on to is your goal bigger than any of your like obstacles. So like, obviously we talk about it all the time. Our lifelong goals are to be, healthy and fit, and with that, like, other smaller goals, I say smaller just as in like short term, come along, but like my overall goal, healthy, fit for the rest of my life. And so when you're looking at that progress curve and you're looking at that stuff, yeah, you might not know when you're going to hit that pinnacle where just like everything falls into place. I feel really good and I'm really healthy. But what keeps me on that path is that end goal. Because that end goal is just so strong and drives me so much that I can't turn back and I can't, change my mind.
And then so let's kind of look at it specifically to CrossFit or nutrition, or another great example would be mobility.
Yeah. I think that's the biggest example.
Right, like you can do a stretch, Dave, you can speak more on this, but you could do a stretch, every day for a few weeks and see very little improvement, then all of a sudden whatever's tight just gives in.
Right.
And then boom, now you can put a barbell overhead or whatever it is.
Yeah, well, it's very true, because usually people don't focus on mobility till there's an injury. And then it becomes, oh my gosh, I'm injured, I can't do what I was doing, so I have to take a step back, and then I'm going to lose all my progress. And then, like, I work with a couple clients right now, giving them one-on-one treatment, and like, I see the progress because I see them, once or twice a week, and I can see, okay, they're moving a lot better than last week, but they don't see it because they see themselves every day. And then I'm like, no, you are making progress, but maybe it's not fast enough for them, or that you're very. I have to bring them back to, like, hey, you've done, you're 30 years old, 35, 40 years old. What have you ever done to take care of your body in that period of time? Usually it's nothing, or I've played sports, or I've weightlifted all my life. Well, you haven't ever done any type of mobility, so now I'm reversing 40 years of bad posture and trying to fix that. So it's not going to be an overnight thing.
Right.
It's going to take some time.
And you can't know how long it'll take.
Right.
There's no timer on the body.
I think a good example is like Holly Berry. She couldn't overhead squat for the longest time. I think it took her almost 2 years, like 18 months, and she just every day was on doing. Yeah, they were doing their overhead mobility stretches that we gave them.
John Lip is a good example.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden it was just like, boom, I can overhead squat now. And it was like, because we opened your shoulders, it took that long
for
your body to release, And just dealing with Justin Thompson today with his back.
Yeah. I think another good example is like nutrition. Nutrition can almost, for a lot of people that, might have been under eating and maybe done some damage to their body, can actually be like negative progress once you start.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? You start feeding your body enough to kind of get the hormones back on track, and so now you're almost overeating. You might gain some weight, and Corin, you can speak more to details, but then so you're gonna go in what seems like reverse progress until all of a sudden your body is back to normal, and then you're gonna see the big progress. That's
the biggest thing that happens when I deal with people who are dealing with their nutrition is like exactly mobility and health and all of that goes the same, that you have to heal yourself before you can then ask your body to do more things. If your shoulders are jacked, if your hips are jacked, and you're like, nah, just keep fucking squatting and eventually your body will fall into place, we know that's not gonna happen. Same with nutrition. If you're trying to lose body fat or gain muscle mass and you've destroyed your hormones or anything else that's going on with your body is sick, and you just keep saying, okay, caloric deficit, you're not going to get anywhere. You're for sure never going to have that progress curve. And it can be very mentally discouraging, or plain and simple fucked up, to be like, oh, I need to go back to go forward.
Right. And I'm actually kind of dealing with this with my own, with my back. So since December, it kind of, there was, like last October to December, there's very little progress. Then all of a sudden in January,
you felt great.
I could do everything. And I would say I went from like 50% to 90% over like the next 6 months. And then since like June to now, it's October, I've only gotten a little bit better. So I hit this big spike in progress. And here's the other thing, is that, it's not, like these hockey sticks can be layered on top of each other. So kind of like a plateau. So I hit a plateau where now I have to step back and say, okay, what do I have to do now to get the last, 3 or 4% of my back better.
And you were saying hockey stick earlier, and then you just kind of hit what I was going to say is like, I think health and wellness or fitness, mobility, nutrition is almost like a staircase, to be honest. Like
right.
It's all ascending, but you're going to have those plateau marks. And like that's the thing is, especially in the beginning, it is a hockey stick, because everything seems like PR. Like, oh, I'm improving, I'm losing weight, I'm gaining muscle, I'm looking great. And all of a sudden you're going to get that point where, maybe about a year in and, well, I'm stuck at the same snatch weight. I'm stuck at, like, some people forget that Olympic weightlifters, if they PR like a half a kilo, which is, what is that, like a pound and a half on their snatch or their heavy lifts in a year, that's considered like amazing.
Victory,
yeah. So like they practice every single day on all those lifts and they're lifting heavy a lot and they can maybe PR 1 pound. And like we I think that's kind of like we get all these PRs and all of a sudden we level out. And then it's like, well, I'm not seeing any progress. And it's like, well, you still are making progress because now it's, we're still working on your mobility. Maybe we're honing in your nutrition. And
that's what I was going to say is the fun thing about CrossFit is it's not just one progress curve.
Yep.
It's your strength, it's your cardio, it's your gymnastics ability, it's your nutrition.
Well, and I think too, there's so much that goes into the dynamic of your curve, your progress curve. Like, are you measuring your progress curve on the distance the size of a marker? Is it, an entire graph? Is it over years? And I think what really opened my eyes to that is Dave and I were watching a weather documentary about like the change in weather and like the correlation with our hot planet and like CO2 levels. But they're like had this graph that was from like the 60s to now. And it looks pretty dramatic. It looks like, oh shit, like we went from 0 to 100. But when they did core samples and they took it for millions of years, it's really not that dramatic of a curve. But like in it is all these little ones that go up and down and all these things. And it's so, like, I think for me, like, trying to reiterate to people that, like you said, from January to now is this. But from the whole timeline, and sorry guys, I totally pointed at my marker, your whole timeline of injury, like, what does that look like? And your progress.
Right.
And we just get so hyper-focused. That's why I'm so diligent about, like, journaling about it and, like, doing my check-ins every day because, like, I can look then in this big picture versus, what happened in the last month.
Yeah, that's why progress photos and stuff are so important, and logging your scores and logging your lifts. Because then you see it, and you're like, oh, all right, well, maybe I did make a huge progress.
Right.
We just talked about this. I haven't PR'd my regular squat snatch in like 2 years, and we went through a quote-unquote small little strength cycle, and we thought we were going to hit it, and for whatever reason, we didn't. My technique work is better. Yeah. My positioning is better. I was getting under it without having to fight through it, so who knows what was going on with my shoulder that day or anything like that, but there was still progress.
Right.
It's just, what are you using to define that progress? No, I did not PR. I didn't even hit my PR, but my lift looked better. My core was better.
Right.
That's progress.
Right.
It's all how you measure.
So should we kind of wrap up? Just remember, guys, like, going back to what we talked about in the beginning, it's with a lot of things in life, and this is no different than gym, it's doing a lot of hard, boring, not gratifying work. And then, you do that long enough, and then you find the reward later on. But you have to stay diligent. Like, building habits is that way.
Yeah.
It's not fun. It sucks. Like, for me, I switched earlier in the year from working on the evenings to the mornings. It's not fun when it's cold, and you're getting out of bed and going to work out. But I did all that, and then the past couple weeks have not been so good. But I had that habit in place, so I was able to get back to it. So that's kind of like,
right.
I had put all the work in, and then it was much easier for me to get back to it.
So I kind of like what you said, to give the listeners something to take away from this. Here's my idea. Like I said, we all know what we need to do. We just need to do it regularly. And you're gonna fall off, you're gonna make mistakes, you're gonna forget. So I just had a client do this, and I did this. Somewhere you can see, list all the things that when like you're on point that you're doing. You're getting up and you're journaling. You're getting to the gym early. Like, I'm listing all the things that Jason does. This is not me. You have your to-do list, and you meal prep your foods, and you grocery shop on Sunday, whatever it is. So make your list of all the things that you do when you're hitting everything and you're seeing progress because you're hitting all the actionable steps. When you feel like you're not hitting progress and you're like, I don't know what happened, go look at that list and be like, oh, I'm not doing 1, 5, 6, or 7.
Right.
And then you can bring them back. And that's what Dave and I did. I was feeling very stalled mentally. And he was like, these are all the things that I know you're not doing. So now I have a list. And these are all the things that I know I need to do to keep that progress pushing forward so that I can see
I have
that
the same exact thing.
Yeah.
And we've talked about it on the habit episode, but I actually keep track, and then I have a number. And like, if I'm at 50, 60% for a few weeks, I know, and that's exactly what happened. And then I started getting anxiety about it. There's the other thing about when you have built these habits, this is kind of going off topic here, but I think it's important. When you've built these strong habits, when you're veering off course, the stronger your habits are, the easier it is to say, hold on, like you're going off track, focus, get the cart back on the tracks kind of thing.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I think that's another good point. Like, in the beginning, it's going to be harder. And the fall-offs are going to be more frequent. They might last longer. But if you, like you said, have that belief and that desire to just keep getting back at it, eventually, like, the fall-offs won't be as hard. They won't last as long. It'll be easier to get back on track.
Mm-hmm.
Dave, what's your points? What do you do when you feel...
I just try to focus on the small victories. To-do lists are big for me. So like I get ideas in my head a lot, and like if I don't write them down, I'll forget them. Or like I'm really big on doing 3 things in a week, and I just love to. I don't know. My thing is like I work on that project till it's done before I move on to the next one, and I love like checking it off and like going down my list and just being like, all right, and getting them done. That's huge for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel lost if I really don't have them written down, so I get kind of like overwhelmed.
We should clarify. You like to do like 3 projects a week.
I do.
I mean like in case people are wondering, like 3 tasks a week. That's all he does.
Well, like
right. No,
like,
you do.
I have other tasks, but like
3 big things a week.
3 bigger things. Yeah. Like 3 things that are gonna take up a majority of my time. So
Yeah.
And usually it's behind the scenes stuff, like building a web page or.
Again, significant tangent. We just talked about this last night. I am not that diligent. Like, that is just not in me. Mm-hmm. But what Dave and I identified last night is like, I'm great with coming up with new ideas and new things, or like conceptualizing what that should look like. But once I have that, then I'm like, I don't want to fucking put it together.
Right.
But Dave does. So I'm like, we just need to make sure that we're just constantly So like, we're going to have like a place in our whiteboards where like every time I have ideas, I'll write them. And when he's done with a project, he'll be like, okay, Corianne, your idea that you wrote down, 2 weeks ago, I have time for it now.
Right.
These are the steps. And then it'll bring me back on track.
Yep.
So again, finding what works for you is really important too.
Yep.
All right. Good episode.
Yeah.
Nice, short, sweet.
Cool.
All right, guys. Harbor Park, stay classy.
And stay diligent.
Yeah. See you next week.
All right, everyone. That wraps up another episode of Anchored. Remember, if you enjoyed this episode, please remember to share it with someone you know. Give us a 5-star review on your listening platform. That helps us reach more people. And remember to subscribe to our channel so you never miss an episode. We'll talk to you guys later, and stay classy.
Thanks for listening to Anchored at Harbor Park CrossFit. If you would like further information about our programs, visit www.harborparkcrossfit.com. We hope you'll tune in next time.